Welcome into another edition of the podcast. Charles and I hanging out. And this week, Charles, we're going to have an interesting conversation about how to invest like our elected officials. We're going to talk about.
If that's something you really want to do, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, this thing is crazy. It cracked me up. I didn't realize. I mean, I knew it was out there, but I didn't really spend a lot of time looking at it until you and I started to chat about it. But we're going to talk about the two ETFs out there that kind of follow the Democratic side and the Republican side. Obviously, this was kind of started around the whole Nancy Pelosi thing, and we'll talk a little bit about just kind of the history of the whole insider trading thing from a political standpoint. So, how are you, my friend?
I'm well. We're here. Spring is here, and it's nice, and I'm happy about it. And
good.
We got all the weeds out of the yard last week, so I don't know what we're going to do this weekend.
There you go. Just relax and enjoy. Yeah. Maybe look at some of these information. Now, as always, this is not, financial advice. We're not saying go pick up one of these things without making sure it's part of your proper plan. But we just want to talk about it because it is interesting.
It's different.
So, kick it off. Where do you want to go? How do you want to start?
Well, okay. I hadn't thought about it. And reading all the stuff I read, this was in Financial Advisor magazine. And the title of the article was How to Invest Like Members of Congress Who Won Big. So there are two now ETFs, exchange traded funds. One of them is based on this perspective of Democrats, what they think is important. One is based on the Republicans. The Democratic ticker symbol, if the ticker symbol is like IBM is a ticker symbol, the ticker symbol is NANC, Nancy, for
Nancy.
Democratic, Nancy Pelosi.
Pretty funny, yeah.
And the other one is KRUZ, Ted Cruz, for the Republicans. This is a unusual whales. Is the
subversive democratic trading. So interesting.
Yeah, it's just real. It's don't know who they are, but they exist and they're out there, and people are playing the game.
Sure.
And it's just if you want to, whichever side you're betting on, Republican or the Republicans are Cruz is going to invest in stuff that Republicans are backing, and Nancy's going to invest in the stuff that the Democrats are backing.
Now, granted, we're only 30 days into the new presidency and the new administration, so we'll see how this plays out. But
we'll see how
I was just kind of clicking on this. So for 6 months, the Nancy one is up 5.3% over the last 6 months. The Cruz one is up 2.5%. So basically, the Democratic one has been outperforming it.
And historically, and looking back at some of the stuff, going back a little bit further than that, it's the Democratic portfolio has basically kind of doubled the Republican portfolio.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I can't. Who knows? And I don't know what it'll do tomorrow. So, past performance is not indicative of future results. That's the gigantically universal disclaimer.
Exactly.
But I just think if somebody wants to look and see, this is kind of fun to go do a little research on your own and find out what are they buying, what's owned in there. Why not have some fun with it?
Well, and it's a hot topic too, right? Because of what we're seeing with the Doge stuff, and now they're going through and doing some cutting, and then there's these questions about how do you have a job that makes $175,000 a year, and then you wind up being worth $300 million, and so there's all these. And I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just saying there's all these interesting questions, and that brought us to this whole insider trading thing, which you were doing some research on, and that was legal for a while.
Oh yeah, it used to be legal all the time. It didn't have to be just members of Congress. It could be the people that work for those folks. They're sitting in meetings with all these people that are coming to Washington D.C. to, here's how we want to develop our business. Here's the industry that we're in. What are you guys? How are you thinking about it? And all these conversations get thrown out there, and all these people, clerks and the Democrats,
taking notes.
Everybody was taking notes, and you could basically, it was non-published public information. So you're trading on insider info, and it was perfectly legal to do that for them, not for us.
I was going to say, not for the average person.
Totally illegal for the average guy. Totally, but up until April of 2012, when a law was enacted that said, oh, you can't do that anymore, they could do that. So this whole, it's just, it kind of sometimes isn't what you think. And it's surprising that Nobody paid any attention to it, and all of a sudden it got to be a
Yeah.
big deal in 2011, 2012, and they changed the rules, which they should have done.
They
should have never had to change them. They should have never been that way in the first place.
True. Now, I've joked for years that I don't know who this I don't know if this I don't know if Doge is going to find out this person has a job or not, and I'm totally making this up, by the way. But the czar of acronyms. I've always wondered if we had like some person who was in charge of these funny acronyms they do, like the Secure Act, right? So setting every community up for retirement enhancement, right?
Yeah.
So this particular thing you were just talking about, this law that was passed in 2012 to stop this, was called the Stock Act, right?
Yeah,
so Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act. Somebody always has fun. The CARES Act had something to it. They always put something to it. So I was kind of wondering who that is.
And it becomes catchy, and people might actually pay more attention to it. And then instead of just same old government that comes out all too often. So
true.
Anyway.
Yeah, interesting. So all right. So so they passed this bill or whatever, but there's still a lot of questions. So people, I still think we feel like, I mean, obviously, this is why these two different ETFs were created.
Yeah.
I think people feel like, hey, they still get some information, and we want a slice of that.
Yeah. Well, okay, here's your chance. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell. It's just interesting. It was when I saw it, it was like, oh, this is fun. Let's see where this takes us. And here we are talking about it.
Very, very interesting. So yeah, the Nancy one ETF is down about 2% today.
Yeah.
At the time we're taping this, of course, anything
who
changes
knows? Yeah.
in 5 seconds. Yeah, I mean the S&P's down 0.5% today. So
if you're going to worry about it over a day's period of time, don't do this. Don't listen.
Okay,
don't
that's
even
a great
listen
point.
to my podcast. It's going to make no sense at all because that's not the way I look at stuff.
Well, and really nobody should, Charles, right? Like, I mean, I just saw somebody post this question on X the other day, and I was, a bunch of different financial stuff that I'm kind of following and chiming along with. And it was like, the question was, how often do you look at the stock ticker? And I was reading all these different people's responses, and I thought, man, there's so many, there was thousands of people that are like, oh, I check it daily. And I thought, that's just a terrible idea.
Well, they don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Well, you have to give it time to work. It doesn't always work, and you have to know if it's not working. Let's go do something different. But you've got to give it a chance. I don't look all the time. I know what I want. I know why I buy it. However we invest, and it's for the long term. It doesn't mean everything we've ever bought has always gone up, because it hasn't.
Right.
So, if I'm going to buy this for clients, I know if it works, we'll keep it until it doesn't work, and then we get out. If it doesn't work right away, then we're out. Didn't work. Shoot, thought it would. Looked like it was gonna, but it didn't. That's the way it works.
That's the nature of things, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, if you're a day trader, I get looking at it.
Well, don't talk to me. I don't even want to know.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's your job, I get it, looking at it every day. But I think average, regular, everyday, working day citizens who have a job doing something else, that's just stressful. It's not good on the, your stress system.
Don't you have something better to do than that?
Yeah.
If you don't, go find something better to do than that, and unless that's your passion and that's the way you make a living.
Sure, because otherwise it's just going to drive you nuts.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So I don't.
All right. Well, interesting stuff.
People would argue I am nuts, but this hasn't driven me nuts at all, because I don't do it that way.
Right. All right. Well, there you go. So interesting information. So there's literally 2 ETFs out there. If you're interested, again, the stock symbol is NANC, NANC. And Cruz, KRUZ, right?
Yep. Pick your poison.
Pick your poison. Nice. All right, so let's jump over and take an email question. We'll wrap it up this week. We got an email question that was sent in from Peter at Scottsdale. And he says, Charles, can you explain the fiduciary term to me? It's been tossed around a lot. I hear it quite often.
Yeah.
I'd like some clarification on it.
Okay, this is an investment fiduciary perspective, as opposed to a fiduciary who's obligated to take care of sort of somebody else kind of thing. Although it's the same conceptual setup. I'm going to credit an investment fiduciary.
Okay.
The primary, and I got that designation 20 years ago. It's the AIF. I don't know. There's like 12 or 13,000 of them now. I was one of the first 200 to earn the designation.
Okay.
It just, to me, it's like, okay, I'm supposed to do what's in the best interest of my client, period. That's the end of that conversation. There isn't
Right.
any other way to do this. I can't do, and that's really true, in my opinion, the true definition of fiduciary. You do what's best for the client, not for
Isn't
you.
it wild that had to be put into place? Because there's suitability. I guess we should maybe say the other side for
Well,
this
suitability
question.
is, it doesn't mean, it just means it's okay. It's not
Right.
necessary.
So
I could sell something to you back in the day of high commission stuff, which is kind of faded away, thankfully.
right.
I could sell you something that was suitable, that paid me 3 times more than something else that was still suitable, and it was fine.
Correct.
But it's not fine from a fiduciary perspective.
Correct. Yeah. Thanks for breaking that down, because I was going to say we've heard stories and things like where, okay, you know, the person who you're working with has these 3 vehicles that they're thinking about putting you in, but they get like an incentive off of one of them. As long as it's suitable, they can suggest that to you. But a fiduciary has to go with the best thing for you,
which still could be the one that pays the most, but it needs to be disclosed if there's a difference.
Gotcha.
So it's disclosure. It's so easy not to have to fight that fight every day intellectually with yourself of saying, gee, can I talk them into this? Because I'm going to make way more money if I sell them this thing. It's like, oh, that's way too much work.
And you would think that we wouldn't have to have stuff like that in place, but we do. I mean, we know business is business, but you know, it's like, I always use the analogy of like, you go take your car to the mechanic and you say, hey, I'm having a problem with my tire. And he's like, all right, you know, he fixes it. And he's like, hey, I fixed it. It's suitable. It should get you down the road. It's like, well, no, I don't want that. I want to make sure that it doesn't fly off when I'm doing 70 miles an hour. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny that we have to have rules to do the right thing.
Well, it's also interesting in the securities world. It's a lot more acceptable this way because the day of commissioned mutual fund sales and all that's kind of faded away over time. In the insurance world, it's a whole different story, and they have different perspectives and expectations of suitability, and you know, are you acting as a fiduciary? And they battle and battle and battle, wanting you not to have to be a fiduciary.
Yeah. Well, I know that Congress had this out there, and then they kept kicking it down the road. So I think they still kicked it again, didn't they?
It again. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. People can do business any way they choose to do business. Just tell people what you're doing and why you do it the way you do.
Yeah.
I challenge anybody to come up with a better way to do it than I'm doing it. I just don't think there is.
And ethical is what we want, right? Certainly when we're dealing with this situation. So
anyway,
that's the point of vetting people, right? That's the point of, you know, checking out their podcast or going to a seminar or going to a workshop, or, you know, just doing a little bit of homework, is finding out who's the right fit for you, and then go from there.
Yeah. And find out more. We had a client say, hey, somebody sent me something. Somebody's doing a workshop, buying me a dinner, yada, yada, yada. I said, yeah, okay, that's fine. We've done that. Yeah. You know, but when we do it, we say, okay, now our expectation is this costs us money. We would really like some of you to say, okay, I want to work with us. We want to work with you, and we're going to get paid back for the money that we spent. But if you just think you're going to go get a bunch of information and you're not going to get chased, good luck.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean that they're not. They could be totally coming at it from a fiduciary point of view, but they're going to tell you that's exactly the way they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's the nature of any business too. Like it was funny. We were just literally just watching, I had YouTube on. And I remember years ago, you'd put YouTube on, you could be watching some various different video clips, and it would just play the whole clip, and then it would go to the next one, and so on and so forth. And now there was more commercials that would pop up during this YouTube video that happened during a television show. It's like, we, you know, as people, the sales thing just never ends.
Yeah. Well, everybody's selling something.
Something. Everyone. Yeah, exactly.
You are. I am.
Yeah. And if you're not, you're the thing that's being sold. So,
yeah. Well, that's a whole different.
You're selling yourself, right? You're a lot of times trying to sell yourself. Hey, you know, I'm worthy of building your house or, you know, fixing your pool or, you know, doing whatever, right?
If you're watching this and you don't have, you know, if you haven't figured out who I am by now, then you're never going to figure it out, because this is who I am every day, which is really kind of scary sometimes. But I think
that's the point. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the beauties, though, I think of, you know, all these kind of internet shows and radio podcasts and all these different kinds of things that have popped up is because it's like, look, you're not necessarily doing the same set of rules that traditional radio has. It's like, look, I'm just going to be me. It's a lot cheaper to put something like this out than it is to buy airtime on a radio station or a television station and just say, this is who we are. This is who I am. If you're interested in working with me, no matter what it is. I mean, you see it in all sorts of different videos on there, right? Auto mechanics do it. Everybody does it, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a great way for you to say, this is who I am. This is what I do. If you need some help, reach out to me.
Yeah. Let's talk.
There you go.
Talk's free.
There you go. That is true. Well, for now, anyway.
Oh, okay. That's got nothing to do with. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, no, right. All right. Well, it seems like there was a joke years ago. It's like everything, nothing's free anymore, not even breathing. And it's like, is breathing still free? Maybe. I mean, I guess it is, but there's always something in the air. So, all right, my friend.
There's undoubtedly a catch somewhere.
There's always a catch somewhere. All right, well, that's going to do it this week. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. If you got some questions, need some help, reach out to Charles and have a conversation with a qualified professional about your specific situation. And of course, you can find them at PelletonCapital.com. That's PelletonCapital.com. There'll be links in the show note descriptions below, so you can just click on it that way and make it nice and easy. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify or YouTube. We put these out about once a month, so there'll be some good content, simple content for you to consume and see if it gives you some useful nuggets of information to help you along your path. We'll see you next time here on Financial Choices Matter with Charles Scott.
Ready to learn more? Get a complimentary review of your retirement landscape today. Reach out to Charles and Sherry at Pelleton Capital. Don't wait and let time pass you by. Sit down and build a rock-solid strategy that keeps the focus on you and your family. Visit Pelleton Capital or click the link in the show description. And don't forget to subscribe to Financial Choices Matter on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Financial planning and investment advisory services are provided by Pelleton Capital Management Limited, a state-registered investment advisor. Past performance is not indicative of future results. No one should assume the information presented here serves as a receipt of or substitute for personalized individual advice provided by Pelleton Capital Management. For more information, visit www.pelletoncapital.com.